There's a $2 mixture sitting in your kitchen right now, and it kills weeds faster than the $20 bottle at your hardware store. Not weaker, not slower, faster, and the proof isn't in a lab. It's in every American backyard from before 1950. Now, most people hear that and think, if it really worked, why don't we still use it? And that's exactly the right question to ask. Because the answer has nothing to do with chemistry. It has everything to do with what happened to American farming after World War II. Because somewhere between 1945 and 1970, a quiet shift happened. Companies that had been making chemicals for the war effort needed a new market. And American lawns and gardens became that market. And slowly, over decades, the old ways got replaced. Not because they stopped working, but because something new could be packaged, priced, and sold at scale. And what your grandmother knew, what every farm wife in America knew, quietly disappeared from common knowledge. But the chemistry never changed. And that's where this gets interesting. Because here's what most people don't realize. Before chemical herbicides became mainstream, American farmers and homemakers had been managing weeds for over 200 years without them. And they weren't struggling. They were using something so simple, so accessible, that it sounds almost too easy today. Salt and vinegar. That's it. Records from 1800s American farming manuals describe using salt along fence lines and garden borders to prevent weed growth for entire seasons. And vinegar, the plain white kind, was documented as far back as the Civil War era as a way to clear unwanted plants from pathways and driveways. Roman soldiers were even known to salt the earth of conquered lands to prevent regrowth. The principle is ancient, and it works because of basic chemistry that no amount of marketing can change. So, what exactly is happening when you pour this mixture on a weed? Let's start with vinegar. Regular white vinegar contains acetic acid, usually around 5% concentration in the kind you buy for cooking. And when that acid hits the leaves of a weed, it breaks down the outer protective layer. Think of it like sunburn at a cellular level. The plant loses its ability to hold moisture, and without moisture, it can't survive. Now here's what makes the difference. Household vinegar at 5% will damage young weeds effectively. But if you use horticultural vinegar, which is 20% acetic acid and still costs under $10, the effect is dramatically faster and deeper. That's the professional version of the same idea. Now add salt to this. Salt, sodium chloride, does something different. It doesn't just damage the leaves, it gets into the soil, and it disrupts the plant's ability to absorb water through its roots. So you're attacking from two directions at once. The leaves from above, the roots from below. And here's the step-by-step that actually works. You take 1 gallon of white vinegar. You add 1 cup of table salt. You add 1 tablespoon of dish soap. The dish soap is the key most people miss. It acts as a surfactant, a word that just means it helps the liquid stick to the waxy surface of leaves instead of rolling off. Without it, you're wasting half your mixture. You mix it. You pour it into a spray bottle, and you apply it directly to the weeds on a sunny day. The sun accelerates the drying effect. And within hours, sometimes within minutes on young weeds, you'll see the leaves beginning to turn brown and curl. By the next day, most weeds are visibly dying. Now here's what's important to understand. This is not Roundup. It doesn't travel through the plant's root system the same way synthetic herbicides do. Deep-rooted perennial weeds, the tough ones that come back every year, may need 2 or 3 applications. And because salt affects soil, you don't want to use this heavily in areas where you plan to plant flowers or vegetables. Use it on driveways, sidewalk cracks, fence lines, gravel paths. For those situations, it is genuinely as effective as anything you'd buy. And it costs almost nothing. So why did we stop using this? The honest answer is that it's not complicated enough to patent. You can't put a trademark on vinegar and salt. You can't charge $20 for something everyone already has in their kitchen. And when chemical companies entered the agricultural market in the mid-20th century, They brought with them advertising budgets that local farming knowledge simply couldn't compete with. Extension offices that once taught traditional methods shifted toward recommending new products. Gardening magazines started featuring sponsored content. And within a generation, the knowledge your grandmother carried without even thinking about it became something nobody talked about anymore. Not because it failed, because it wasn't profitable. And that's a pattern worth noticing, because it happens in almost every area of home care, health, and maintenance. Old knowledge doesn't disappear because new knowledge is always better. It disappears because new knowledge can be sold. And once you understand that, you start looking at a lot of $20 products very differently. So the next time you see weeds pushing through your driveway cracks, before you drive to the store, check your kitchen. Vinegar, salt, dish soap, everything you need is already there. Your grandmother knew this, and now you do too. If this changed the way you see something ordinary, share it with someone who needs to know, because this is the kind of knowledge that survives through people, not through systems.